Good morning, everyone. So I'm Audrey Gamble. I'm kind of the new kid on the block on this panel, I think, but I started at Auburn just over a year ago as soil fertility specialist. And but I'm from Headland, and I'm from a peanut producing family, and so I'm honored to be here to talk to y'all today. I just want to go through a few of the main fertility issues with peanut, really focusing on calcium and some of the micronutrients. Calcium deficiency, of course, can show up as some of this with some pops. This bottom picture here shows varying degrees of pod filling with calcium deficiency. And so I have a big announcement today that Auburn has increased their critical value for calcium to 500 pounds per acre. It had already been increased in Georgia, and so this was based on some research that Julie Howe, who was a soil chemist at Auburn, and also Glenn Harris had been doing. This critical value of 500 pounds per acre is especially important for large-seeded cultivars and non-irrigated peanuts. We know that, of course, seed size has increased over the years. We've gone from varieties like Georgia Green that have about 600 seeds per pound to varieties like 06G that have more like 600 seed per pound, and so those calcium demands are a little bit higher. As far as timing, gypsum, we want to apply at early bloom to make sure that its maximum availability is during the maximum pod filling stage, and then lime at planting, because lime is a little bit less soluble, and of course if you're applying lime, it's probably to address a pH issue as well, so applying that at plant or pre-plant. With gypsum, if we apply at plant or apply too early, there's a chance that in years like this year we have enough rainfall to really leach some of that calcium below the pegging zone, decreasing the amount that's available to the plant. So this is some research that I can't really take credit for, but it's research that's taken place in Georgia and Alabama with Glenn Harris again and Julie Howe and Chris. And this has been looking at some alternative sources to gypsum and lime. So we've got on this table here, you can see some of the different sources that we tested: gypsum, lime, black gypsum, Agarman gypsum, full measure cal. And one thing that I really want to point out is making sure that you know what percentage calcium your product is critical. Some of these liquid applied calcium products are very low in their actual calcium content. So, for instance, this full measure cal that I have at the bottom, the recommended rate for peanuts on the high end is 3 gallons per acre. That's going to equal about 10 pounds of calcium per acre that you're putting out, as compared to gypsum, which is more like 300 pounds. So you would have to be putting out about 90 gallons of this product to get the same amount of calcium that you would with gypsum. So checking those labels and making sure that you're applying based on the calcium amount of pounds of calcium that you're putting out is important. We didn't see any differences in yield or grade in these trials, even compared to the control with gypsum and lime. That's probably because our calcium was adequate for growth. But we can look at some of the effectiveness of these products that we tested based on the seed calcium, so the amount of calcium that was taken up by the seed. And you can see here that the only two products that were better at taking up calcium than our control treatment were lime and gypsum. So there's a lot of products out there that maybe claim that they have increased solubility, increased or are better able to be available to the plant, but this study that has taken place over the last 3 years shows that gypsum and lime are just as effective at increasing calcium in the plant. The next nutrient I want to talk about is boron recommendations. It's difficult to measure boron in the soil at the soil testing lab, so we have a blanket recommendation. For Alabama, that's 0.3 to 0.5 pounds per acre. In Georgia, it's a half a pound an acre to apply at early bloom. This can be applied at early bloom as a single application or as a split application when you're putting out your fungicides. Again, some of this research that we've done in Alabama and Georgia looking at different products and different timings of boron application, we have kind of the same situation that we have with calcium. So there's some products out there that will have much lower concentration of boron at the recommended rate than what we would recommend at the universities of 0.3 to 0.5 pounds. So there's an example on this slide of a product that at their recommended rate equals about 0.02 pounds of boron, which is over 10 times less than what we would require. And that comes through in some of the leaf boron analyses that we've done in these products. When you look at this product here, which is in the purple, I can't get it to, the center. Okay, this product here that was applied at a lower rate, we applied it according to the label recommendations, but it was no different than the control when we looked at how much of that boron was taken up by the plant. And the last thing I'll mention is pH. We know that at too low of a pH, we can have problems with aluminum toxicity, zinc toxicity, and there's certain nutrients, especially our macronutrients, that their availability increases as we increase pH. So nutrients like phosphorus, potassium, and sulfur, we want to get that pH up to the recommended range of about 6 so that we can increase the availability of those nutrients. However, there is such thing as too high when it comes to pH. Some of our micronutrients like iron and manganese, the availability of those can decrease once we start getting up to about 7.5. And so this picture here, which I was really proud to get this picture. I have a young cousin who's farming, and he doesn't like to ask anyone for help, much less his older cousin. And so he sent me this and asked what was wrong with his peanuts. And this turned out to be manganese deficiency. This often happens on an area of the field where maybe lime had been previously stored, or historically there was too high lime applications. And so this was a pretty small area of the field. It wasn't a very severe deficiency, so I recommended to him not to spray. However, if this is a really widespread problem and the deficiency is severe, our recommendation is to apply about 1/4 pound to 1/2 pound of manganese. So that's all I have.